What was originally anticipated for these movies, the success of them, were something that was overshadowed. I don't think anybody expected these movies to be as successful as they were, and as the producers and directors of the film realized how much success they were having from the movie, they started to increase the production of merchandise. And they actually started to put more and more work into the movie as more installments were released over the years. So I think that's one of the main reasons why the first one didn't seem to have as much work put into it as a new moon or an eclipse or a breaking dawn. But to be honest with you, I thought the first one looked like it was shot in about a week and a half. I don't mean to be, criticizing towards the Twilight saga, but I think the first one didn't have much work put into it due to lack of special effects, the way the script was put together, and then as we saw, New Moon come out 2.5 hours, and then Eclipse 2.5 hours, more and more detail was added, and more work seemed to be put into it in the way of special effects, with the changing of the characters into the wolves, and the abilities of the vampires. It seemed like more and more special effects and stuff were added as time went on for these movies. I think that this is every vampire lover's film. I think that anyone who's a fan of vampire movies or werewolf movies, going back as far as The Wolfman, which was released for the first time back in 1970, 1980, and old Dracula movies, I think this is a vampire slash werewolf lover's movie, and it's a must-see. And like I said, if you read the books, you know more detail than probably someone who hasn't. So if you haven't read the books, I'd advise you to read the books before going to see this movie, because it will really illustrate for you how much of an importance these books were to the Twilight Saga. It wasn't just all about the movie, because I think the books definitely had a lot of detail that you can't really put into a movie in its entirety. And if you haven't read the books, it's worth your while to actually read them in their entirety, the whole series from Twilight right through to Breaking Dawn, to have a better understanding of what the books have meant, not only to the movies, but to the fans. I think that it's worth your while to check out eBay.com and Amazon.com. Tickets for this movie are actually available through the official Twilight website, and they're actually available at a number of theatrical websites as well. For a significant amount. I'd advise you now to log on to the official website of Twilight to check out how you can actually purchase your tickets online to better benefit yourself, because this is pretty unique how they're doing this. I know that you can virtually order tickets for every movie nowadays off the internet, but the theatrical promos that have been airing on television are actually encouraging you to order your tickets online, because that's the easiest way, or at least that's what they're allowing, because of the popularity of the film. I've seen several films over the years be sold out in ticket sales. I know Spider-Man, when I went to see it years ago, was sold out in the first few days of its release. So they're encouraging you to purchase it through the official website of Twilight or the theater of your choosing. So I guess that's the best way of actually obtaining tickets to see this. And if you're one of the unfortunate few who don't get to see it in theaters, it's going to be probably hard for you to purchase the DVD or Blu-ray, but that's probably the best way for you to check this thing out, or get a download from it from Netflix or something like that. But I think the best way probably for you to obtain your tickets is by going to the official website of Twilight or the theater of your choosing, because that's how they're actually encouraging you to purchase your tickets online. I know that's how the theatrical promos have been encouraging you. The theatrical promo is about a minute in length, and it didn't really show much detail, but it enticed you. So I think it accomplished its goal to get you to actually see the movie. It was about 30 to 45 seconds in length, and there wasn't much detail in the theatrical promo. It just showed Bella in the hospital there, and some interaction between the vampires and the werewolves, which is probably the main angle of the movie. The jealousy that Jacob has at the start of the movie, and how he metamorphoses into this guy who realizes what is what from the start of the movie to the end. And he's not the only one who goes through a significant amount of metamorphosis. I know Edward goes from a huge metamorphosis from being a frustrated and angry individual who believes that having a vampire baby is like giving birth to the spawn of Satan, in his words in the film. So I think that all the characters go through a very important metamorphosis, Edward and Jacob alike. So I think the characters deserve a lot of credit for being able to perform these metamorphoses to the best of their abilities, because there are a lot of actors out there who aren't able to do that. And I think that they definitely deserve a great deal of credit for being able to do that. And that's something that's going to be illustrated in the audio clip we're going to be playing for you within the next 5 minutes or so. How much of a metamorphosis the characters go through from the beginning of the movie until the end of the movie. I think that this is definitely going to be one of the more popular Twilight movies we've seen of the previous three that were released. And as I said, Breaking Dawn going to be broken up into two parts, and I think this is great because we don't really have to go through a state of depression after the first part of Breaking Dawn is over and done with, because 6 to 7 months later in 2012, the tentative date of release is June of 2012, Breaking Dawn Part 2 comes out, and that's where the series wraps up. As we know, the author of the books isn't writing anymore. She's retired from writing Twilight books. So, are we depressed about that, or do you think Hollywood's going to be making another movie that's not based on a book, given the popularity of the 5 movies that have been released? I think maybe we'll see something put together, but without a book, it's kind of really difficult to release another movie on it. Although I'd like to see another movie or another book released, although I know it's not going to happen. The probability of a book being released over a movie is really low, because I know the author doesn't want to write anymore. And how can Hollywood make a movie on a book that isn't been written? So I think that it's very hard to do that, but it's not impossible for Hollywood to have a 6th Twilight movie. I don't think it's worth our while to anticipate Twilight 6. But I think, the movies definitely are great, and they did a great job with the photographing, photography, and the scripts and everything as the movies progressed. I wasn't so much into the first Twilight. I liked it, but I wasn't so much into it as I was Eclipse, because I felt Eclipse had more action in the movie and more detail. The movies got more detail, definitely, as they went on. And I think Breaking Dawn is definitely going to be the most anticipated and most detailed one of the previous 3 that were released. And I think that breaking it up into 2 series, kind of like how they did with Harry Potter, is great too, because it doesn't leave us depressed because Breaking Dawn is over. I think it would have been terrible if they would have released it in just one part, one shot, and then bang, that's it. You would have had about a 3.5-hour long movie with everything happening at once. So we take in so much from the Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1 movie, and then 6 to 7 months later, after we've recovered from how happy we were that we saw the first part, here comes Breaking Dawn Part 2. New promos, new script, a couple of changes, and we pick up from where Breaking Dawn Part 1 left off. So the stupid thing would be to see Breaking Dawn Part 1 and not to go see Breaking Dawn Part 2, or to not see Breaking Dawn Part 1 and go see Breaking Dawn Part 2. So you have to see these movies in their entirety, like I'm sure a lot of hardcore Twilight fans have done. Robert Pattinson, his acting ability. Did you enjoy any other Robert Pattinson movies other than the Twilight movies that he was in, from Twilight right through to Breaking Dawn? The Remember Me movie, which was a script written off of the September 11th events, with him standing in a tower at the end of the movie, waiting to die. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, why is this guy standing in a tower, waiting for a plane to come crash into it? I know the message of it was that he was one of the victims in the movie, but it was certainly unexpected and really kind of stupid. Why is this guy standing there waiting to die? And then Water for Elephants with Reese Witherspoon. I think the only reason that movie is going to be any bit successful is because Reese Witherspoon is in that, from the Legally Blonde installments, and then she had Sweet Home Alabama, Just Like Heaven, which was a great movie. Monsters vs. Aliens, another great one. A lot of great Reese Witherspoon movies, and we can't forget Walk the Line. So I think that's the only reason that movie is going to be any good. And I know that Robert Pattinson, to me, he isn't that great of an actor. I think the movies that made him were these Twilight movies. And I actually read on, I think it was PerezHilton.com. I actually keep up with that website, believe it or not, because I find some of the stuff on there entertaining. I don't find everything amusing on the Perez Hilton websites, but I find it pretty amusing how he actually posted an article about how Robert Pattinson had been hit by a taxi, got up and walked away without a scratch, kind of referring back to how he played a vampire in the movie Twilight. So I think that he's really made a reputation off these Twilight movies, if anything, not anything else. Just these Twilight movies. I think that, he has a great deal of talent, but it just seems like his best acting is put forth in these Twilight movies. So I can't say I really enjoyed anything outside of Twilight, and I don't think I ever will. Because I think Twilight brings forth his best acting. I know he has his own band, and he sings, he's multi-talented like a lot of people, but fuck, Miley Cyrus is multi-talented, Selena Gomez is multi-talented. It's not like he's the only one who starred in both a movie and had a album released. There's lots of people who've done it, and there'll be lots of people who come after him who do it. I'm not shitting on Robert Pattinson's acting ability by any means, but I think that his best acting came from these Twilight movies. I know that I've been a critic to these movies for a while, but I just think that his best acting didn't come in Water for Elephants, and it certainly didn't come in Remember Me. So I think that his best acting definitely came in the Twilight movies. Now, it was said in a video clip that I saw on the internet, I believe it was a video clip referring to something about Kristen Stewart, who plays Belle in the movie. And they said that her and the other actors in the movie Twilight, if they didn't do anything else other than star in Twilight for the rest of their lives from now until the time they die, they would not have to do anything else for the rest of their lives, kind of illustrating how successful the movie was. So I guess, Twilight is always anticipated, and it's always anticipated to be over the top. Some Twilight movies have been more interesting than others, but I think that, Robert Pattinson, Kristen Stewart, and